Pull up the Zoom so we can see the others as well. Okay, it is 6:01. We will call to order our Planning Commission meeting for October 12th, 2022. Can we please get a attendance roll call?
Commissioner Fajardo?
Present.
Commissioner Franz?
Present.
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja?
Present.
Chairperson Isiano?
Present.
Commissioner Lopez absent.
Okay. Can we, Vice Chair Ceja, would you please lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda today, Jessica?
There are no comments.
Okay. We'll move on to minutes. Do we have we have minutes for meeting of September 28th, 2022. Do we have anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve minutes for September 28th.
Okay, I'll roll call vote, please, for those of us that were in attendance.
Commissioner Fajardo?
Yes, approve.
Commissioner Franz?
Abstain. I was absent.
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja?
Yes.
Chairperson Isiano?
Yes.
And Commissioner Lopez absent. Motion carries.
Okay. And then we'll move on to our public hearing items. First item, 5.1, resolution number 2038, request for design review approval for Texas Roadhouse Restaurant. We have a staff report.
Yes, we do. Just one moment while we get the, thank you. All right. Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Kevin Snyder. I'm the Director of Community Development for the City of Indio. And this evening, we are presenting to you a design review request for Texas Roadhouse, which is proposed as a sit-down full-service restaurant in the City of Indio. So I'm going to just quickly review for you the project. Again, this is a request for design review approval. This authority to grant that approval is granted to the commission, the Planning Commission, by the City Council, which means that it would be final if granted, unless it's appealed to the City Council. This particular project was reviewed under our existing zoning regulations, which are in effect until October 22nd, 2022, when the new zoning regulations that the Planning Commission participated in the adoption of will take effect. So this project was reviewed under our existing, or sometimes will be referred to as our old zoning regulations. The property in question is one parcel. It's located at the Indio Town Center. And for those that are familiar with the Indio Town Center, it's immediately south of the existing Taco Bell fast food restaurant. The proposal is a 9,830 square foot sit-down full-service restaurant on a little less than an acre of land. And there will be 34 on-site parking spaces with additional parking immediate east in the existing shared parking area of the Indio Town Center. Building heights will be around 28 feet tall. They are proposing to have two 12-foot high flag pole extensions anchored to the top of the building, and there will be installation of desert-friendly landscaping. To orient the commission, here is a site plan. The blue dot on the site plan shows you the property location. Again, this is the Indio Town Center, which would be located east of Jackson Street and northeast of Interstate 10. And for those that are familiar with it, this is where Winco is. This is where 24 Hour Fitness is, Home Depot, and other service and retail businesses. This is the project site plan. You can see that the project site is somewhat irregular in shape. The building does fit on the property. The building has gone through some design iterations and is most currently oriented to the with the building entrance to the east. There is again 34 on-site parking spaces along with a trash enclosure area, and then additional parking, as I mentioned earlier, would be provided in an existing parking lot area to the immediate east. Here's a project landscape plan, fairly straightforward landscaping. It's desert-friendly landscaping and is primarily around the building and the perimeter of the property. Here are some project building elevations. So if you're familiar with Texas Roadhouse, you know they have a kind of a distinctive style. Their buildings are typically darker colors with light colored roofs. The flags that I mentioned earlier, showing the state of Texas flag. So this is different building elevations without signage. Here's the materials board. As you can see, it's a combination of brick and other materials, metal roof, and then various color hues of different materials. Again, this fits in with kind of the distinctive brand orientation of Texas Roadhouse. I would note that this project, again, is 883 square feet. However, there is no outdoor seating, and they typically do not provide outdoor seating with their projects. So it will be a full service sit-down restaurant. There's no drive-through component to this. So it does meet a long cherished goal of many in the community to see more sit-down restaurants in the city. Here's another set of elevations, this time with this signage shown. The applicant will be conditioned to come in separately for signage approval in the future if the project does get approved by the Planning Commission. So this evening, the signage that you see on the building is representative of what they intend to have installed on the property, but it's not necessarily being approved this evening because they did not submit all the required information. So that'll come in at a later date. It'll go through our building permit process, and planning will be part of the review. So in the staff analysis portion of the review, we found that the project is compliant with the General Plan 2040, both the land use and urban design and economic development elements. It's compliant with applicable Chapter 159, which is our current zoning chapter regulations. As I mentioned, they'll need to submit for separate signage approval. It's covered under our prior CEQA environmental review done for Indio Town Center, so no additional environmental review is needed. This property was anticipated with this pad being built out for a retail or restaurant-oriented use. With the application of relevant conditions of approval, the project can be approved, and the conditions of approval are binding and must be adhered to. And those conditions of approval are contained in the body of Resolution 2038. So the staff recommendation is to approve Resolution 2038, conditionally approving the design review. And with that, I was happy to answer any questions. I would note that the applicant's representative and the property owner representative are present this evening virtually. So if you have any specific questions, they would be available to answer them. And with that, that's the completion of the staff report. Again, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, before we open the public hearing, do we have any questions for staff?
Chair, for me. Kevin, did we do a traffic study for, I believe it's Avenue 43 that runs behind the 24-hour fitness? And I was actually just out there a few days ago, and it seems it's a very congested, people are using that access to go into town center. So I'm wondering if we've done any sort of traffic study to understand how this would affect it, and if there are any potential traffic calming measures that we should be considering as we continue to expand and adding more amenities. I can imagine more people coming in from that section will be wanting to utilize that avenue. So
no, it's a good question, Vice Chairperson. So this project was determined not to have to conduct a traffic analysis. It was covered under the previous environmental review, which is typically when we require that. As you mentioned, Avenue 43 has become more busy as as homes are built out there, and there's still several properties left where home building will occur. The connection to the Indio Town Center was intended to provide a more direct connection versus having to go up to Avenue 42 and in essence go around and come back in. But we can certainly speak with our city engineer and our consulting traffic engineer to see if there are any appropriate or needed traffic calming or traffic mitigation measures in that area. That may become more of an issue, honestly, when there's roughly 60 acres of undeveloped land out there that are adjacent to the Indio Town Center. And that may become more of an issue and likely more of a potential requirement on those developments, as they would have a more immediate impact. This project has kind of more of an indirect impact, but a fair question is something we can look into. But I do think that when those properties and I can tell you that there's applications being worked on right now for the full 60 acres, and they will be doing a traffic study and looking at possible mitigation measures. These will be more residentially oriented, so there will be an opportunity to kind of evaluate the impacts that may come to play even more so when those properties are developed.
Could you pinpoint a little bit better that 60 acres of undeveloped? Is that like to the south of Avenue 43?
It is. I'm going to see if we can bring up, I'm not sure how far my, oops. So if you look on there, a portion of the 60 acres is shown. So you see a triangular piece of land that would be southeast of the 24-hour fitness. So there is that piece, which is approximately 30 acres. And then there's another 30-acre piece immediately east of that. So in total, they are about 60 acres. The same party has control of those. And we do anticipate that they'll be pursuing future residential development of that. Okay. So I think at that time, to the vice chairperson's point, we will need to evaluate if there's any potential need to mitigate or otherwise address the potential increased traffic flows coming through that area. Certainly the addition, and you can see they're shown as vacant lots here, but the project to the north, Shadow Ranch, that was completed by D.R. Horton. There was 80 lots there, and that certainly has contributed somewhat to the increased traffic through there. So definitely something to be looking at in the future. But again, our consulting traffic engineer, our city engineer, determined that because this project was already reviewed and a project like this was already reviewed and assumed in the prior environmental review, that no additional traffic analysis was needed.
Okay, and excuse my ignorance, but if we wanted to move something earlier before not waiting for the development, and the only reason that I'm saying is because, Golf Center Parkway, we're seeing the exit like Jackson, right? So if I'm coming from where I live on the other side, I usually would have to take the bridge and go down into the Jackson entrance into the center. It's getting very congested, and I think that's why the folks that live back there are using the other entrance. I mean, it makes perfect sense. So I'm wondering, what would be the process? Is that something that's within our purview to suggest and request? Is that something that we would need city council to do? I'm just curious how we would get in front of that so that we can start looking at potential mitigation strategies ahead of this development coming in.
It's a really good question. So in looking at specific development projects, there is a requirement to develop what's called a legal nexus between development and impacts. So for example, it may not be legally appropriate to condition this project on doing improvements to Avenue 43 or Avenue 44 or Avenue 42. So outside of development impacts and conditioning developments to contribute either through direct improvements or financial contribution to improvements to the roadways in the immediate surrounding area, then the other approach that cities can take is to develop a program under what's called develop a project under what's called our capital improvement program. And that's where those projects are evaluated and considered by the Public Works Department, and ultimately they go before the City Council and are considered and adopted as the capital improvement program for the city for a specific period of time. Sometimes that comes with budget, and sometimes it doesn't, and then we have to go off and find sources of revenue. But that's really the two ways. It's either through the development approval process, if there's a legal nexus, or through the city's capital improvement program. Typically, what we're trying to do with those projects is we're trying to get as much benefit as we can. So typically, they're more focused on our more major arterial streets, not all the time, but many times. So, for example, improvements to Avenue 42 or Avenue 44 that carry more traffic connecting to other parts of the community is where a lot of our capital improvement program effort has been focused, and rightly so. So those are really the kind of the two avenues that we have available to us. And so again, I think to the concern about Avenue 43, we can certainly see what happens with that development. I've made a note to mention to the city engineer, if there's any any opportunities to do any looks or early looks at Avenue 43. I think, we are aware of the traffic issues around Avenue 44 Golf Center Parkway. The city did receive funding and will be doing the bridge replacement project for Avenue 44 that will hopefully alleviate some of that as it connects across the canal into Golf Center Parkway. And then, over time, we will look. I'm confident we'll look at other capital projects in the area, assuming that the funding is available. These are the challenges of a growing city, right? Growth equals more traffic, and many times the city's somewhat playing catch up because we don't always have the funding available. As you also are aware, the Jackson Street overpass is in the Coachella Valley is the #2 over regional priority in terms of replacement. So the Monroe Street Bridge overpass is the first, and Jackson is the second. So hopefully, somewhere down the line, hopefully not too far down the line, we will see the Jackson Street bridge replaced, more capacity put into that bridge, which will help alleviate some of the traffic issues and provide greater circulation. Monroe Street, we're hopeful that will kick off in 2025 and be done. And then Jackson Street would be thereafter. These projects take a long time. Each project's $100 million roughly. And there's a lot of environmental documentation that has to be done, right-of-way acquisition. So, I know that the work on Monroe began many years before I arrived at the city, but we're getting very close, and I think in the next few years you'll see a much improved traffic flow on Monroe, and then hopefully followed thereafter by Jackson Street.
Just the improvements on Monroe will help Jackson as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any of the other commissioners have any questions for staff?
I do. Kevin, are we going to have a presentation from the applicant, or is it just going to be the staff presentation?
I believe the applicant is available to answer any questions, but certainly time if you would like to hear from them. I know that Janet Reed is representing the applicant, and I apologize, I forgot Amy's last name, but Amy is representing the property owner Red Mountain Group. So
no problem. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to ask questions before maybe they got answered, so that's fine.
Okay.
So I think the one thing I want to ask is, you mentioned that this project is still under our old zoning rules, right? But
correct.
The signage is not being approved in this particular review. So will the signage still be approved with our old rules, or will it then fall into the new rules since it's coming before us after the new ones are in place?
Correct. So the signage, if submitted after the effective date of the new zoning regulations, will be subject to compliance with our new zoning regulations, signage regulations.
Okay, so if they submit it after the 22nd, that's when it's going to be effective,
That is correct.
Okay, great. And it sounds like, I reviewed the plans, and it looks like it's pretty much a standard Texas Roadhouse building, right? This is kind of their signature look.
It is, Commissioner. This is their signature look. They don't vary. I've seen this look in multiple cities, as I'm sure others have. It's their kind of their corporate identity, and I'm sure that the applicant's representative can speak more to that. But it is pretty consistent with the design of other Texas Roadhouse and other communities.
Okay. With that in mind, it is very different from anything else that's in the shopping center, which could be a good thing. It'll stand out. People will wonder what it is. So that was one thing. But the other thing would be the flags on the top, which I believe are also part of their signature. Is that at all going to be significantly different than, I know that the Home Depot building is really big and there's some real big buildings in there. Is that in any way going to just look odd in that shopping center?
Yeah, so I don't think it will. The Home Depot Center and the Winco, those buildings are approximately, I believe, right around 40 to 45 feet in height. So I don't think it's going to stand out. The building is the Texas Roadhouse building itself is approximately 28 feet, and the two flagpoles are 12 foot in height. So I think from a scaling situation, it will be kind of, in essence, design consistent with the taller structures in the complex. I don't think it'll stand out awkwardly.
Okay,
Would you also say that parcel is kind of tucked back up against where the bridge starts, kind of, so it'll kind of be a little bit
Right. The chair actually made a good point that it is kind of hidden's not the right word, but I can't think of a better word at the moment. The Interstate 10 off ramp, as you come off of Interstate 10, it is built up, and this is a little bit tucked against that build up or the grade elevation change. So there is some kind of natural screening that will go on that may make the flags a little bit more stand out because parts of the building may not be as noticeable, at least when you're coming up that incline. But again, I think overall it fits in kind of to the overall look and feel, massing and scale of the rest of the town center.
okay. And, on the landscaping side, we keep hearing about, water, water. So I'm assuming when they bring the final landscaping plan, we are going to continue to work with everyone on drought tolerant plants, trying to maintain that what we're putting out looks great, of course, but also is friendly to our environment.
That is correct, Commissioner. That they are proposing desert-friendly landscaping. Those are reviewed by planning staff and a representative of Indio Water Authority. They have to be consistent with the water efficient model ordinance that the city has adopted, and certainly, although we don't have the same level of regulations under the existing zoning regulations. We still have the authority to require that. And then, as the commission is well aware, with the new zoning regulations, we've actually really pumped that up, so to speak, in terms of making sure that it's desert appropriate landscaping. But I think this project will demonstrate desert friendly landscaping. And we were very clear about that early on. I think they've responded to that.
That's great. Being a longtime resident here, a sit-down restaurant is something we talk about quite a bit. So those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I had a couple of questions, if I may, Chairman. First of all, thank you for the presentation. We're really looking forward to the people I speak with, folks that I usually conjure with when we go out to Oceanside or Menifee, with one of the more recent restaurants we visited out there with Texas Roadhouse. Just want to say thank you. And more importantly, I was looking through your corporate sustainability plan there and really appreciate the efforts that you do working alongside the community and investing in a very diverse workforce and providing those employee benefits to employees like that. Question is, staff-wise, what are you looking staffing-wise for the restaurant? Because I was reading, typically it's anywhere from 100 to 200. Can they speak to that just briefly?
So in order for them to speak, the chair is going to have to officially open the public hearing. So if the chair is ready to do that, but if there's any questions for staff, we're happy to answer those before that.
Yeah, if there's no questions for staff, then I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I would like to hear from the applicant, see if they have anything to add, and I'm sure we have some other questions for them.
And again, I believe it's Janet Reed that is representing the applicant, and Amy, who again, I apologize, Amy, I cannot remember your last name. It's Amy Souther, representing Red Mountain Group, and I think they're both available virtually, Jessica. Just Janet Reed. So Janet Reed, representing the applicant, is available virtually, and I believe Ms. Reed can respond to some of the questions the commission has posed.
Ms. Reed, did you hear the most recent question posed by Commissioner Fajardo regarding staffing levels? Is she there? I hear something faintly.
Ms. Ms. Reed, this is Kevin. If you are able to hear us, please respond so that we can have your responses to the commissioner's questions if possible. Can you hear us? I don't know.
That is not on the agenda for this evening. However, we did take a moment for public comments for items not on the agenda previously. I understand you just walked in, so perhaps we can go back to that after this item. Be glad to hear what you have to say.
Also, Chairman, it also looks like she may have responded in the chat room with a yes, meaning staffing levels may be between 100 and 200. Or
Okay.
she's not 100% sure about staffing. Okay,
Okay.
not a problem.
So Chair, it appears that it may be an issue on her end because
Okay.
she's fully joined. So our IT staff is also going to contact her to see if she would like to call in.
Okay.
So if the commission wants
I'm
to
sure
just
there's
take a moment.
Probably a couple other questions.
There may be, but if you can give us a minute, we probably have some
Okay.
sort of audio issue, but it appears to be on her end.
Okay, we'll take a brief recess.
If that's what the chair would like to do, yes.
Sure. We'll take a few minutes to get that sorted out.
Great. Thank you.
Jessica, is there something that she would like to make a public comment on for items not on the agenda, or was she just hoping that there was? Director Snyder?
for any participants on the Zoom that might have logged in? I can't see that. It's like, no, okay.
Do we know, are we able to hear from the applicant's representative at this point?
Chair, might I ask that if you could ask the commissioners what other questions they might have to make sure that it is appropriate for her to call in, if that was the only question
Okay.
she did respond.
Are there any other further questions besides that, Commissioner Fajardo or Commissioner Franz?
No, on my part, I'm good. I actually just pulled up the website just to get some more info. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory on there, but thank you. Sorry for the difficulty you're having, if you can hear.
I
I'm good. I don't have any questions for them at this time.
Thank you, Gloria.
I was holding a couple of questions for the applicant. I'm wondering about, saw that they had 3 designated restrooms, gender neutral, and then the 2 sexes, but I'm wondering if there are baby changing stations. This is something that is now on my radar. I don't have children, but I'm wondering if that is something that's part of their design. And then also, I know you mentioned, Kevin, that there was no outdoor seating, but I can imagine that on a weekend, there's going to be people waiting. And so I'm curious if the applicant would be considering adding some outdoor waiting area or something, because that's always, to me, the biggest problem when you're going to these families or restaurants, is that everybody's huddled up in that entrance. And so wondering if that is something that the applicant would be considering, and if maybe they can speak on a little bit about some of the trees that they're considering for the landscape plan, just because there's an opportunity for shade. So
Janet, we're going to repeat the questions for you. Okay, good. So Jessica, could you do me a favor and read her responses so that we have them on the record?
We will, Janet Reed puts in the chat, we will provide baby changing stations as required by the building code.
Okay. And then the second question, Janet, is understanding that there won't be an outdoor seating area, will there be any covered or somehow shaded waiting areas as individuals wait to get into the restaurant?
She also states the landscape plan should be available for review. There are covered outdoor benches.
Okay, so covered outdoor benches. And then as if she did indicate, the landscape plan does show various tree types, but Vice Chairperson, is there a specific, I just want to make sure that she's answering your question. Is there a specific question around those tree types?
I'm just wondering which, if the consideration for the tree types is shade, just because this is a big problem, particularly in that area. It's like exposed parking everywhere, and in the summer, and you can imagine that people are going to leave their cars out there. So just wondering if that is a consideration within their plan.
And if I might ask, just for one clarification, you're talking about the trees that would be close to the building around the waiting areas?
Yes.
Okay. So Janet, the question is that in the landscape consideration for the area near the building entrance or where folks might be coming into it, will there be, in addition to covered bench areas, will there be shade trees that will be provided to address the potential sun and glare impacts as folks wait to get into the building?
Janet states, I am not sure of the tree specified in the plan.
So.
Kevin,
So Vice President, it looks like the plant trees are going to be more of the date palm orientation. So we can certainly work with them to look at that and address as needed. I think you raise a good point, particularly with the weather conditions out here sometimes. So we'll work with Janet and her team just to look at that issue in terms of making sure that to the best of their ability, they're able to provide appropriate shade trees around where individuals might be waiting outside if they're not able to wait inside. So we can certainly do that. And that's something that says the final landscape plan will be something that staff will look at. So we can certainly make that modification with them. And maybe the date palms can be relocated on other parts of the property.
Thank you.
And I had a quick question for the applicant. It seemed like a good portion of the roof, by looking at the material sheet, was some sort of a galvanized aluminum type, galvanized steel type roofing. Is that something that's treated to prevent rust, or do other Texas Roadhouses eventually, does that roof line kind of change from that steel look to more of a rustic look?
And while Ms. Reed prepares to answer that, on the materials board, the metal roof is of crimp galvalume is the type.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the question about the treatment to avoid kind of fading out or rusting, it's certainly, I'm hoping she can answer that. So Janet, the question is how do you ensure that the metal roof will not fade or rust or otherwise begin to show effects, particularly in hot weather conditions that can be experienced out here?
Ms. Reed states the material is used across the country and other parts of California.
Does that help answer the question, Chair, or would you like more information?
No, that doesn't really answer the question, but I mean, if that's what's used, that's fine. I was just curious if it is rust proof or rust resistant or something like that.
Right. I think we can certainly, as we work with them through the building permit process, we'll work to making sure, oftentimes when you come out to the desert, the climatic conditions are a little bit different than elsewhere. So sometimes we do spend some time helping our clients understand. And so any potential modifications that need to be done to the material or treatments, we typically help identify those particularly if they're new to the desert.
Thank you.
Ms. Reed also stated no issues are anticipated.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other further commissioner questions for the applicant.
Got one more question. I got one more question, Chairman, but it's silly. Any chance we can put up a California flag too?
That would require a flagpole.
They're a Kentucky-based company. I'm not quite sure about the Texas flag, but that's okay.
I will let Ms. Reed answer that.
So Ms. Reed said Texas Roadhouse uses similar materials in Arizona. I think she was referring to your previous question.
Okay.
And she says, haha.
I had to ask, Janet, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any public comments on this matter?
There are no further comments.
Okay. If there's no other commissioner comments, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any commissioner deliberation, or would anyone like to make a motion?
I guess just.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I could make a motion. I was just trying to find
Yeah.
all the language. And doing this remotely is really not any fun, just to know that. I'm sorry I didn't make it into.
We put the presentation back up, the
Yeah,
motion.
that would be helpful if you could put that back
Okay.
up. Mhm. Save me from digging through my computer.
There we go. So the staff recommendation is now up on the screen.
There we go. Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2038, conditionally approving design review 22-02-494 for the construction of a 9,083 square foot sit-down restaurant establishment known as Texas Roadhouse, located southeast of Jackson Street on certain real property identified as accessory parcel number 692050029.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Fajardo,
Yes.
Commissioner Franz,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
Chairperson Isiano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, wonderful. Before we go to staff items, I'd like to go back to public comments for items not on the agenda. Ma'am, did you want to make a public comment? Okay, okay. If you can please come up to the podium and just state your name and your question, and we'll do our best to clarify any questions you have.
My name is Rita Collins, and my question is the letter about the mall.
Mhm.
I want to know, because they sent another one with pictures. We don't understand all that. Just what are they trying to do? Are they trying to take our neighborhood away?
Oh, we're not trying to, I'll let Director Snyder address that, but I can assure you that there's no plans to take over any existing properties in that
Because they
neighborhood.
did that behind the mall, and that's been 20 years. and they
We
haven't done
understand
nothing.
that. We understand that.
Yeah.
We're Director Snyder will be glad
Okay.
to.
So first of all, I want to apologize to the speaker and other residents that received this notice. So this notice went out with the intent at the time to have a public hearing before the Planning Commission on a subdivision of land. Currently, there are 58 parcels of land out there. Those would be combined into 6 parcels of land. After this notice went out, we did make a determination that it could go straight to City Council under the existing subdivision laws of the state of California. However, we failed, and my sincere apologies, ma'am, we failed to send out a follow-up notification letting individuals who are within a certain distance, which is 300 feet of this property, letting them know that the consideration of this had been moved from Planning Commission to City Council. So when they came this evening, they fully expected, and rightly so, that there would be a public hearing on this item. So first of all, my apologies, sincerely. And we will make sure that you and all the other residents are notified when it does go to City Council. So you do have the opportunity to come to that meeting if you want to or participate. In terms of what is being done, it is simply the parcels out there, of which there are 58, will be in essence reconfigured into 6.
Is that the desert around the mall?
So yes, this is the area that is immediately south of the existing mall, between the south end of the mall and John Noble's. And then it is also Rubidoux on the east and Monroe on the west. So those properties right now that are currently vacant, they're mostly dirt, a little bit of grass and trees. That is the area that will be realigned into those 6 parcels. And that's the only thing that's going on with this, ma'am. No other actions are being taken other than this, for lack of a better word, remapping of the boundaries of those
So
properties
they're
out
not
there.
going to come across John Noble?
So nothing south of John Noble's
Correct.
will be affected whatsoever or discussed or
Right.
or done.
No, there'll be no impact to the Desert Gardens, sometimes referred to as Desert Gardens
Yeah.
neighborhood.
But we
There will-
just got signage back
You
up.
did.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we will, the only thing you might see is that, well, there might be some improvements to the roadway in John Noble's, just improving the road itself. And that'll be a road project that the city will work on, but no other impacts to the neighborhood will result from this action.
Okay. That's all we wanted to know. 'Cause
But
they
I
said that they were gonna come kick us out.
no, that
So we're all worried to death already.
yeah, so I can assure you, none of that is happening. I do sincerely apologize. We will make sure that you and the other residents do get notified about when this is going to city council, but we also make it very clear. And I appreciate your point that this is sometimes written as people in our profession write it, but it may not be fully clear. So we will do a better job of making it clear about what's going on to assuage any concerns you
Yeah, like
have.
you're talking to kids, because we're all old over there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. And before you leave, I want to get you my business cards so that you can have that to contact me as well as the other residents. So I will do that before you leave, and I will make sure you get this form back too. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Collins. Okay, were there any other requests to speak for items not on the agenda? No? Okay. Being that we're done with that, Kendra, would you be handling staff items?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to, well, hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, Chairperson Isiano, Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja, Commissioner Fajardo, and I don't think I've met you yet, Commissioner Franz, but my name's Kendra Reef, and I'm the new Principal Planner with the City of Indio. So it's nice to meet you virtually. Just to go over some of the staff items we have that will be coming to Planning Commission within the next few months. We have Madison Point, which is a senior housing project that's going to have some restaurant elements, potentially general retail and hotel spaces. Another project that we have going on that's receiving comments with the building department is a 4-story mixed-use development with commercial space on the bottom and market rate apartments on top. That's in downtown on Oasis and Bliss. On October 26th, you guys will be reviewing the Palmera project, which is a 364-unit for rent and for sale apartment and townhome development. They're 1- and 2-story units on Rubidoux and Requa. We also have 2 more apartment building projects that are going to be built in downtown. Those are mixed use with commercial on the bottom and apartments up top. And then we also have some more affordable housing projects that are expected to come to Planning Commission in early December. So we have 180 unit affordable housing development off Gulf Center and Avenue 44. We are currently circulating for environmental review and comments on CEQA for the Indio self-storage project. The comment period for that is going to end November 11th, and we're hoping to bring it to council November 23rd. Planning Commission, I apologize. And we received 13 cannabis applications. So that application deadline has since passed. So we received 13 in total that are going to be reviewed. Yeah, that's it. I mentioned the Planning Commission on the 23rd because we're going to see if you guys are going to be available for the 23rd. So I kind of smirked at that one a little bit.
So we know that you would obviously want to spend time with us the day before Thanksgiving. So I said that was sarcastically. So what we're inquiring is whether or not we do have several projects that would like to be considered in November. And right now it's lining up that it would be the second meeting in November, which would be November 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving. So what we're wondering is if there would be a quorum that would be present on November 23rd. If not, would there be a willingness to consider a special meeting either the Tuesday, which would be the 22nd, or the Monday, which would be the 21st? These particular applicants have been waiting, and they have some commitments that they're trying to meet before the end of the calendar year. So I guess that's the question to the commission is, what do you think about that November 21, 22, or 23rd meeting?
I mean, I can do the 21st or the 23rd. I cannot do the 22nd.
I personally would prefer something possibly the next week after Thanksgiving rather than try and squeeze a meeting into what's already a pretty short week.
Okay.
I could be available for any of those dates, but virtually. So wouldn't be able to be here in person.
Yeah, any day that week works for me as well. So I'm good either way.
Okay. So to the chair's question, so then the following Wednesday would be November 30th. And I don't believe we have a council meeting, so there wouldn't be a conflicting council meeting because the first council meeting is going to be December 7th. So if the commission wanted to avoid the situation of trying to, work around the holiday, we could reschedule the November 23rd to November 30th if that works for anybody. I'm seeing Commissioner Franz shaking her head.
Doesn't work for me, sorry.
It's okay.
On the 21st and 22nd, I have commitments in the evening already on those days.
Okay.
Around 7:30. So I don't know, how I wouldn't want to do a meeting and say I could be there, but I have to leave at this certain time.
That's understandable. I guess the question for the chair, would you be comfortable if we do have a quorum and appears we may have a quorum for the 23rd or the 21st, would you be okay if the meetings went without you participating? And I think you would like to be there if possible, right?
Yeah, if possible, but
okay.
I wouldn't have an issue if we had a quorum.
Yeah, it looks like we may have a quorum if I'm reading the responses correctly. So if the commissioners that are available, yes, Commissioner Franz.
Could we start a little bit earlier? I mean, it's kind of a special meeting, right? So do we have to start at 6 and maybe make it possible for the chair to be present? Maybe start at 4? Or something?
Commissioners' availability, we can start earlier. That's certainly an option. We have to advertise it as a special meeting, but that's just a procedure.
Nico, would that be helpful for you? I don't know how long of a meeting you think this is going to be, Kevin.
For the 21st or the 20?
What did I say? Hold on.
You said you were not available the 22nd?
Yeah, I'm not available the 22nd, right? So I'm available the 21st or the 23rd.
I'm also open for the following Wednesday on the 30th, if that makes any difference, because I know that everybody's making their commitments. I can do any of those meetings. I can do in person on the 30th, and I can do virtual leading up to Thanksgiving because I won't be in town. So if that's at all helpful, Commissioner Fajardo, you're available.
Yeah, you know what? I'm off that entire week, so let me know when.
So if just throwing a possible scenario out, if the commission was to meet in a special meeting on November 21st, which is a Monday, and if we started the meeting at, I don't know if 4 o'clock is too early for certain folks, but I don't know if that works for the chair, but we could start the meeting early, as Commissioner Franz suggested. Is that an option?
Yeah, I could start at 4 or 5.
So
if that allows us enough time. I mean, if there's multiple items on the agenda and there's a possibility of a 3-hour meeting, that might be. Go ahead.
As of right now, we only have 2 items planned for what would be that planning commission meeting. One being the Madison Point project, that is the senior housing development along with a hotel and general retail space. And then the second would be the NDO self-storage project, which is currently being circulated for review right now for CEQA.
So go ahead.
So does staff think that we can get it done in 2.5 hours?
Well, that's partly driven by you.
No. You know us well enough. What do you think based on the size of these projects?
The majority of the commission, not all of you, have had a preview of Madison Point that came before you in a project consultation previously, and it's substantially the same in many ways. The uses are the same. And they're going to be going under the new Highway 111 corridor specific plan. They're going to be seeking what's called the master development plan approval, where it'll be more site oriented. And because they don't know the exact end users of the buildings, they will likely come back at a later date and seek more specific design review approval for the building. So it'll be more site oriented. So I think you may have less need to do a full detailed review of the buildings themselves, because they're still talking to potential users and want to involve them in the design considerations for the buildings.
It would be similar to what you guys reviewed for the Home 2 Suites project at the last planning commission, where they just had the general retail pads, not the end user.
Correct. And then the Indio self-storage project is your standard design review.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer, I think reasonably, if you were able to give us, say, 2 hours of your time, and assuming that, we stay on track and we're efficient, I believe that we could accomplish the reviews of both items that evening. Obviously, we have to confirm the availability of the applicants, but knowing that they are eager to get their projects reviewed before the end of the year to meet certain obligations, I'm sure that they will make themselves available. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we can special notice the meeting. So instead of November 23rd, when it's regularly scheduled, we would do a special meeting notice for November 21st, beginning at 4 p.m. And then we would, when we send out the notices to property owners, we would certainly make note of that special meeting date and time.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and if it works for, I think we should start at 4. I mean, I'd rather be done early and have Nico have a little break between whatever he's going to versus running from one to another.
Yeah.
So are we talking the 21st? Is that what our general consensus is? Perfect.
It appears the majority of the commissioners are okay with November 21st, beginning at 4 p.m. We'll certainly check with Commissioner Lopez on her availability as well and notify her of the intent to hold this special meeting. But if the majority of commissioners present today are comfortable with that date and time, we will proceed forward with that understanding.
Okay, just keep us, let us know.
We certainly will. And I appreciate your willingness and flexibility to be available on a holiday week. We understand we had a big ask in front of you, but the worst you could say is no.
It's also Monday Night Football, so earlier the better.
Like, there we go. That's what's going to shoot us down.
Hey, if I made it here for and not watching the Dodger game, I think game 2 of the NLDS will be fine.
Okay. Any commissioner comments beyond that? Okay. Being that there's no commissioner comments, we will adjourn till next planning meeting, Wednesday, October 26, 2022. Welcome back, Gloria.
Thank you.